was locked up in Chillicothe Correctional Center, and I'm in Missouri. Out of 1,500, whatever you want to call us, human beings that were incarcerated, maybe 30% of us were Black. They don't put that on the news, and that's what we used to say in there. Now, let me tell you about the 70% of the white population. We see them come and go, which I have no problem with. Jesus is still working on their testimony. They're still coming in and out. But let me tell you about the Black people. We're the ones that sit there and see you coming in and out because they didn't hit us with these football numbers. So the 30% of the Black people, we're staying. Listen, I was there 14 and a half years, never missed a day. Never missed a day. Was consistent in my incarceration. Consistent. Right. Now I got that from a comedian, but that's true. I never went anywhere. But the average white woman, because, Missouri is mostly rural. Mm-hmm. She's got some charges, but she keeps on coming in and out. You know why? Because her bed's making money too. But when it comes to the judge, he sees a lot of money in these Black people, and he also doesn't see that we're human beings too, or he's, caught up in that cycle of that's where all the Black people belong when they commit a crime because we're just built different.
Well, and I think it's all it's there's similarities. Like I like to talk about similarities. So if you could, Stacey, talk about where you were locked. Where you did time at, what state was it, and how was that? Those numbers, how did those numbers look upon you? Because I think that like Sarita just explained that, and I think the same thing happens in New York State, right? With the population of Blacks being more than whites, you know what I mean? But you actually see that revolving door,
Oh yeah,
and go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely, and like the bail definitely was lower for white people. We were more likely to get ROR'd. Which is really
let me break it down. What's ROR? Released on your own recognizance, which means we're going to let you go. Just sign this paper. Yeah. You think a Black person's getting ROR?
No. But so at arraignment, when the judge evaluates you, like, they'll decide if they think that it's supposed to be just whether you'll come back or not. Mm-hmm. In some places, they think that you need to be incapacitated. Because I had come from the psychiatric facility, they thought incapacitation would be good. And the judge also was like, and you're going to get the help you need. That was the biggest joke of the friggin' century. So in county jail also, so to go back to a question that you had earlier, Eric, and I think Sarita, this also will clarify this recent question. So as I'm decompensating, as I'm not responding to the garbage pharmacopoeia that I have to take, they like I really wasn't like all there, and they gave me medications that, like, I'm one of the most chill people generally, but I'm bipolar. You can't give me like Prozac because it induces mania. Well, I guess Prozac was cheap, and they gave that to me as an antidepressant, and I wound up being like, but I don't know exactly what drugs I'm taking because they just hand them to me in a cup and say these are yours. But I'm like getting kind of aggressive, like early like hypomania is a thing. So I'm not like totally wrapped. And then when they realize like, oh my God, like this was a bad move. Then what do? They just give you like horse tranquilizers. So then they gave me like Librium, and I woke up holding like an apple and thinking it was my luggage, and I was at the train station, which was
no.
And Stacey, hold that thought for me, please, Stacey, real quick, right?
Okay, on the beat.
So this is a session that we have here on Success After Lockdown StreamYard, which is our cell therapy session, and it's about mental health and just all of the things that we're talking about now. If you could, you can continue with talking about, that horse and how that.
The horse tranquilizer. So so they decided that to get me off of the Prozac, but they needed something that really could control me so that I wouldn't be all suicidal. So they put me in ADSEG, which is basically solitary with someone who watches me 24/7. And they pumped me full of Librium. So I woke up in my cell. Like I don't know what I'm taking. I have no idea what I'm taking. I don't know what's going on. But I did wake up standing on my bunk with an apple in my hand, thinking it was my luggage. And I was staring at the window waiting for the train to come. Like I was on the train platform. I remember that. And the Librium just made me hallucinate. They brought me, like, when you're in the place, right? Chicken is that little bit, well, at least in New York. That's the only
that it's like chicken,
it's
right?
like the worst, it's like the worst chicken. That like today, that's like avian flu chicken. Like it's not even good chicken, right? And it's
avian flu.
It's not quality. Like
Yeah.
But it's like the size of a chicken. But that's the only real meat that you get inside. And everyone wants, like chicken day. Like people trade off chicken. So I freaked out when they brought that chicken. It was a Friday night. I freaked out when they brought it. I was like, there's a dead bird in here. Get it out. I was a mess.
Oh no.
And so they didn't know what to do with me. And so the more Librium they gave me to sedate me actually made the hallucinations worse. And it took them about a week and a half to get a psychiatrist to come look at me. And then they look at I call it the pharmacopoeia, and they just treat your gullet like a garbage disposal for any type of psychotropic drug, because it's not about treatment. And after that episode was over, I mean, I was really I had no idea what time I didn't know really anything that was going on. And I was and that was torture. Like that was a whole different type of way to deal with mental illness, because even though we were poor, I still had mental health coverage, and it all throughout my adult life. Sometimes managing bipolar, it's a constant balancing act. But you have people who are around you who you trust, who can watch out for you. Like it really is a community managed illness, in my opinion, because they see when you start to slip, they know. But in county jail, I don't have any of those support networks. I don't have anyone to advocate for me. I have no one to say, yeah, actually, this happened this way. Because just having a diagnosis like that, people don't trust you, to be a reliable historian on you. So you need, I'm accustomed in that when I'm getting mental health care to require almost like an advocate who can vouch for my version of events, so that practitioners know what exactly they're treating. There's none of that in the county jail. There's no one to advocate. No one in your community is there to say, yeah, actually, this is really abnormal for her. Because now I'm just a deviant. Now that I'm getting this care in prison or in the jail, I'm just a deviant. I'm just drug.
You're acting out.
Yep.
You're acting out, and you need to go to administrative segregation. Because instead of addressing the real issue, lock her up.
Right. And the medications that they're giving me are making it worse. And so I'm trying, and then you have to detox off of Librium because it's so strong. And people in there want it because they just want to zone out. And when I went for sentencing, there was a whole section written in there by officers that I was basically drug seeking. I've never used drugs recreationally. I think I smoked weed 8 times in my whole life. Drugs are not a thing for me. They've never been a thing for me. To see it in my file that I had that they thought I was doing
drug problem. Yeah.
Right. Trust me, nobody is drug seeking for bipolar drugs. They are not fun. Are they expensive? Absolutely. But that's a whole other problem, and it ain't jail. It's what they're doing is criminal, right? So so after that episode, I was really frustrated. Oh, and my hair is falling out because all these drugs do these things to you. So I have eyelashes, traumatized.
So many side effects, so
Yeah.
many side effects. And that's why they can give them to us as the incarcerated population, because they're cheap. And people out in the free world, I remember Prozac had such a bad name because when people would stop taking it, they would lose their minds. You remember people shooting up the place, they were committing suicide. Prozac is the number one drug they want to give you while you're
In prison.
incarcerated. They want to give you
Absolutely.
what's cheap and what has so many, they don't, I'm telling you right now,
And they're not liable.
they've already got cogen on deck. They've got it ready to give to you because they know that, hey, this is going to make your mouth twitch. So we'll try. We'll throw this at you.
And how can you fight your case under those conditions? You
And it's
can't. All
sad.
you are is compliant, and it's not about getting you better. So finally, so after that Librium episode, when I'm like afraid of the chicken and waiting for a train with my Apple luggage, I was like, I mean, the agony was terrible. And I was like, when am I going to get, and whatever drug it was that was working for me when I was at the facility, at the psych facility. And he was like, that's not my problem. My job is just to keep you alive long enough for you to go to prison. And then you're the prison's problem. And I'm like, what? Like, that's it. So it didn't care to them what my quality of life was. It didn't care to them that I was really incapable of fighting my charges. It didn't matter to them, other than I had a pulse. And while I'm in, and that's when it started to dawn on me, in that like kind of prescribed drug haze, like, this is like an assembly line and I can't escape from it. Like, I just have to see all of this through. There's no way to get off of this, and this being like the assembly line to wherever charges lead. And I didn't have clarity of mind. And I feel like it was partially engineered that way, whether it was cost, whether it was convenient for them, even the fact like it was freezing in that place all the time. And they were like, oh yeah, that's how we keep violence down. If it's cold, you aren't beating each other up. And I'm like, so this is all about engineering the environment for an outcome of their choosing.